choose cucumber set a delay between messages. That's something new. And I'm talking to myself. That's fine. I think YouTube is updated since the last time I did one of these videos. And yeah, it was giving me some updates on things. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Flipping Out by Annie So Long. We're going to make this thing, which positively broke my brain while I was doing it. It's super cool. It's hard to do up here. Folds out, stands up. Lots of room for stuff. Can be used for, I think this was big enough that you can put like sock knitting in there if you wanted to. And yeah, I know a lot of people look at this pattern and go like, it looks a little bit intimidating, and there's definitely some intimidating parts to this. If you've been in the store, you've seen my small sample, which like broke my brain trying to do it. So we're making the larger one because it's slightly easier. This sew along is more of an advanced sew along. So I'm not going to go over some basic things like, you know, cutting your pieces, some of the quilting that has to be done. I'll talk about it a little bit. And I'm not going to go over every single step. Like you can base the finger loop on yourself without me having to tell you how to do that. But I am going to go through the trickiest parts of this, and I'm going to share, before we get started, I'm going to share some tools that I found particularly helpful with this one. The first is either best press or flatter. I like flatter because I like the smell of this one. This it helps to decrease fraying in quilting cotton. And what was there's some pieces that are very small, and there's a lot of parts in this pattern where you cut something, and so having things not stretch out and not fray was really helpful. I found with the second sample that I made that I used my 1/4 inch foot quite a bit. I didn't use my walking foot at all. There is some quilting that's part of this. You can see on the inside of my sample, I did a nice like diamond quilt. And the bottom is just straight line quilting. I found that especially through the soft and stable, the quilting wasn't entirely necessary. Oh, and I'm going to make sure, no, I want to see all chat. Live chat. There we go. Say hi to me if you're watching this video, so I know that you're with us. And I know who I've got here because I have talked to several people in the store that said they were going to join us. So yes, I found there's the seam allowance on this pattern is a 1/4 inch. There's not a lot of wiggle room for error, and I found that the 1/4 inch foot really helped me. Hi Joyce, long time no see. Yeah, I found that the 1/4 inch really helped with that. Wonder clips are going to be your best friend. Hi, Sarah. Yay! People I know. Yeah, you cannot pin with this pattern. It's impossible. Wonder clips are going to be the way to go. Spray based. I used a little bit of spray based for the quilting step. The body, you quilt the inside lining. I pre-quilted the piece that we're going to do. So you quilt it to the soft and stable, and I just put a little bit of spray base down, and that kept it in place while I quilted. And the final thing is a stiletto or a purple thing, which kind of does the same thing. This is the purple thing. A stiletto is like a metallic, sharper version of this. What this allows you to do is to keep everything in place and feed it under the presser foot as you're as you're going. And there's lots of really little fiddly bits in this pattern. And I found that having this was helpful. You obviously don't want to sew over your finger. And so this is like being able to stick your finger right under the presser foot, but you've obviously got a tool. And if the needle hits it, it's not great, but it's not terrible. And I would recommend, there's several spots, using a heavier gauge needle. I don't know what I have in my machine right now. I think it's a size 12. And I would go up to like a 14 or possibly even a 16 because it was that, especially this, you can see how not nice looking it is. This spot here between all this soft and stable and the zipper, it's quite thick. So that said, what we are going to go over tonight are just 4 of the steps. We will pick this up again next week. So we're going to do all the preparing components, and you should have that done to join us by next week. We're going to go over steps A, C, E, and G. So you'll need to do B, D, and F on your own at home. And some of these you may have to finish on your own. And if you have, obviously, if you have questions, throw them in the chat. And I'm going to do them out of order because that's the way I do things. And we're going to start with preparing the mesh, which is going to go on the gusset as well as the pockets on the inside. And the reason I'm starting with that is because I am going to use the iron at that point, and then I'm going to switch to some cutting stuff that we have to do. So I have here my fold over elastic, and it's recommended that you iron this before you cut it. It will help with some shrinkage. And I've got my pieces of mesh. When you are cutting the mesh, you need to be aware of what direction your stretch is in. So my stretch goes like this, and you want the stretch to go horizontal because there's not vertical stretch, and you want the stretch to be horizontal in the pockets on the inside. So I'm going to bring everything down here, put my notes to the side for a second, and we're going to start by just ironing this piece of elastic. Stretch it a little bit gently. You can use either side of the fold over elastic. What temperature am I ironing at? I am ironing at the hottest temperature possible because this iron, well, it gets super hot because I like to iron at the hottest temperature possible. I think you could probably do it at like a 4, but it's not affecting. You do want it to shrink, so you want that hot temperature iron. So that's the it of the iron for now. I'm gonna unplug it and just perfect. And I'm going to go cut this into the 2 pieces I need. Pardon me for a second as I consult the pattern. I've lost the last page of the pattern somewhere. That's great. Fold over elastic, 17.5 inches and 4.5 inches. Okay, so I'm gonna get my scissors and remove it. This is not how you should do this. You should do this on your cutting table. But I'm trying to not move around too much. And 17.5 inches. And this is, so the pockets and the mesh are made to be generous because they're going to stretch a little bit, and they are then going to be bigger than the final piece that you want. Sorry, I need my Wonder Clips too. What we're going to do, I'll do it on the small piece first. If I can find my small piece. There's my small piece. Everything's behind me. Sorry, I keep kicking the camera and I don't mean to. Okay. So 4.5 inches is along this top. What we're going to do is take your, move these out of the way. Take your piece of elastic, fold, there is a natural fold in there, but we're going to fold it in half. And you're going to sandwich the mesh into that piece without stretching either the elastic or the mesh. And this is what I'm talking about when I said that pins are not going to work. Pins will not work at this point. And I am often a proponent of not over clipping because it gives you ability to adjust as you're going, but this is not one of those times. So, and then what we're going to do is we're going to sew with a stretch stitch of some point. I've done one with just a wide zigzag and one before with a narrow zigzag. I think I like the wide zigzag best. And I put shiny side out, and we're going to do the same thing for the large piece. And like I said, these mesh pieces are larger than, and what I like to do is pin at one end and then pin at the other end. And this allows me to make sure that it's going to be flat and even throughout. And yeah, you are going to need quite a few pins, clips. I say pins, but I mean clips. For the folks who are watching, are you like sewing along with me, or are you going to watch this and then go sew this thing later? Let me know. I'm curious. I'm curious how many people like watch and sew at the same time. There we go. Oh, and I forgot to mention something, that we were late with this. So the original plan was to do the little ones, the little size, and to make kits because it's what we do best. And yeah, the soft and the little one was terrible, and the pieces of soft and stable we had were no good. So we switched to doing the bigger size, and then we needed to order soft and stable. Anyways, all that said is soft and stable is in the store in pieces the size to do the large ones. So you can buy just the soft and stable, so you don't have to buy a whole package. So I'm going to come over here, and I caught that Sarah watching now, trying later. Sounds good. Excellent. And I think I'm going to do a wide zigzag on this one. The other thing I realized with doing the small version first, or just the other version I did first, was that there was a lot of different components with visible thread and changing thread. So I chose pieces. This next one is more browns, but that's okay. I've got brown thread, this blue part, and this come in handy. Yes. Okay. So you can use the stiletto. I don't think you can see me here. I turn my machine there like that. So you use the stiletto to help guide through what you're doing and to keep everything down and in place. And I'm going to just hold my tails to help that through. So the stiletto, you can see, allows me to get right, this is it here, get it right in under there. Yeah, I can't imagine trying to like watch a video and then do the video at the same time as watching. That seems like a lot. I don't know what's, oh, it's just the, I'm out of bobbin thread. Because of course I'm out of bobbin thread. Why? Oh, Katie. Okay, hang on as I wind a bobbin. I mentioned the other night to my students, Joyce, you remember, I'm like, I think I'm hilarious on these things. Because these things just happen. It's natural that you sew with air and need to repin everything and whatnot. Come on. And of course, I can't see the hole now. There we go. So I'm going to actually put this piece aside because I'm going to rip this out and start fresh. You will have to attach the gusset. I will demonstrate with the larger piece instead of the smaller piece. I was going to do both, but that's okay. Plans change. I'm really trying to keep the videos around like the half an hour mark, but I have a feeling this one is going to end up being longer. Okay. Rethread my machine. And take two. So and you don't need to worry about securing this with a back stitch because this is actually going to end up getting cut down the road. Very important, same like when sewing with knits, you do not want to stretch this as you're putting it through your machine. You're just guiding it. If you stretch it, it's going to end up distorted. You want the piece to be flat and straight. This is my first time using a purple thing, and this project. I've never used one before, and I really like it. It's super helpful. Okay, and this is wandering a little bit, but that's okay. Bring it back here. And obviously on everyone's rewatch when you're actually making this, if you have questions, pop them in the comments. We do monitor the YouTube comments. Oh, you're going to need a good marking pencil too. Something that's a high contrast to what you're sewing with. So you can see what I've got here. I've now got the bound edge. I love that the square is a 1/4 inch, so you can use the check seam. Yes. Yes, this thing is super helpful. I don't know why I waited so long to get one. Okay, I'm going to just move my iron and my Try not to burn myself. Okay, my iron and my little ironing pad, because I need to put my cutting mat here, because there's some marking and some cutting that we have to do next. So the next step that we're going to do is we're going to attach the pocket to this piece. And did I do the right thing? I did. So this, what we've essentially done right now is step C. Is it step C? Is step C, and you're going to do the same thing roughly with step D, and then attach the to the gusset. We're going to jump to step G now. So I've pre-done the first part of step G, which is preparing the body lining. They have you quilt just the lining so that the stitches aren't visible on the outside of your case. You don't have to quilt it. You do have to make sure that the piece is attached to the soft and stable. And if you were opting not to quilt it, you would just sew at 1/8 of an inch all the way around. For anyone who hasn't done any quilting, a couple of quick tips. You don't need a walking foot. It makes it easier, but I found with the soft and stable that it actually went through quite well with just my regular machine foot. You don't need to back stitch at the beginning and the end, because that piece is actually going to get trimmed down. You want to extend your stitch length to a 3 or a 3.5. I think I did 3.5 on this piece, and use a little bit of spray to keep it in place. So those are my quick quilting tips. This piece, because quilting shrinks everything as you're doing it, you then need to prepare this piece by cutting it to the correct size. So you're cutting it down from 15.5 by 17.5 to 14.5 by 16.5. What we're going to do next is we're going to make some marks, and I need a marking tool, which is over here. Sorry. I thought I was prepared. I'm not prepared. I'm going to use this bright blue. I like an air erasable pen would be great. I like the friction ones, but I have ones. You want something, this piece is not going to get washed, so you want something to disappear eventually, and this will do so with heat. So we're going to start by marking a horizontal line 7.5 inches. I'm going to do it like so. 7.5 inches down from the top. And this is going to be the line that we eventually line up our pocket with. And then we're going to divide for the pockets. And the reason that we need to do this first is so that you need to be able to see the lines, because we're going to stitch on top of them. We're going to stitch through that mesh. So we're going to mark 4 inches. Oh, of course, this is not 4-inch ruler. Oh, Katie, I made a terrible mistake. It's okay. I'm going to see 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're going to mark 4 inches, and we're just going to mark from the bottom to that line that we just marked. And then on the other side, we're going to do the same thing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 inches. And then again, we're going to mark 8.25 inches from the edge. So 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.25. And that's going to give us 4 pockets. 4 1, 2, 3, 4 evenly sized pockets. And then what we're going to do, okay, so here's the top of my, you see it, here's the top of my case, here's the bottom. We're going to take this piece and we're going to line it up on that line that we just did, and we're going to clip it into place sort of diagonally. You can try not to stretch it as you want it to lie flat. And it's hard because this is, you can see this, it's bigger all the way around. So what we're going to do is at 1/8 of an inch, we're going to stitch around the sides, along the bottom, and along the top. You can see it's kind of bubbling here a little bit, so I'm going to just smooth it out. Okay. And then once we've done that, we're going to stitch through those lines that we just made. And we do want to back stitch on those to keep them into place. So back over to my beauty here. Let's move this guy out of the way. Perfect. Okay. And so remember, our seam allowance is only a 1/4 inch. So this is going to be at 1/8 of an inch because that's within the seam allowance. Oh, and it helps if I change my stitch back. And you're essentially basting this into place. So you don't need to worry about back stitching. When you get to the end, make sure your needle is in the down position and you can pivot the entire piece. And this bit is a little bit tricky because you can't really pin it to the bottom. The Wonder Clips, if you had jumbo Wonder Clips, you probably could, but there's not enough of a seam for them to bite. Okay, and then like so. Okay, and too many tails here. I've lost my gauge. And now we're going to sew through those lines, and you can only see them very vaguely, Katie. You can start from the bottom or the top. It doesn't really make a difference. I'm going to switch halfway through because then the piece is going to crowd into my machine here. And make sure when you get to the top here that you secure. I'm going to do a little locking stitch. We have lots of people watching. Hello, everybody. Not just Joyce and Sarah. Okay. So you would do that 3 times. I'm not going to do all 3 of them, but you can see I've created my pocket. And then the final step, I like to do it from the back here. Nope, this way, is to just trim this. So you trim off all of the excess. And you can freehand it like I just did. You can use a ruler, whatever works for you. And that is, now this piece is prepared. I have to still sew these in, but yes, this piece is prepared. So the final thing that we're going to do is this piece. Okay. This step also broke my brain when I was trying to do it. So we're going to go back to step A, which is making the bias binding. And I'm going to turn this around. So the bias binding needs to be 2 inches, which is how wide this piece is, I believe. No, this is not 2 inches wide. My other mat has one that's 2 inches wide. Okay. When you are step A, you need 2 pieces of, so you cut out this big piece to make your bias binding, and you need to measure from one corner to the other and cut 2 strips that are 2 inches wide, that the longest edge measures 15 3/4 inches. And I think the mistake I made with the small one is that my bias binding ended up too large, and so it didn't fit nicely around the bottom. This is where the flatter is going to come into play, because it's going to help keep that bias from stretching. Try not to handle this piece as much as possible, because it's going to keep that bias from stretching. If you don't have a mat and a ruler, and you can mark with a I'm going to do this on the other table, because it really, this part really does break my brain. There is probably a better way of cutting this bias so that it's less wasteful, because you end up with these 2 huge triangles, which you can use for other things. But yeah, I really found this, brain breaky. I'm going to bring everybody over to the big table for a second, because this, my larger mat has the 2-inch mark. I do have to, you can see it's a mess. All the things that are usually on my sewing table here right now. I'm gonna just move everything. You can see, maybe you can see, maybe you can't see. Maybe I need to make you go higher. Let's see if I can get some more. This line here, okay? This is 2, and it shows you it's 2 inches. So what I do is, oh, sorry, I'm going to do it from the top here. Laying from one corner here at the edge of where that 2 inches, so where the edge of that 2-inch mark is, I put my corner, and then I cut along that line, and I cut along this part, and measuring see, this is 15 3/4 inch long along here. And so then I have to move this over, and I line that cut up along that second cut line there. And I'm going to do one more. And that inner line is 15 3/4. You can see how this is like brain breaky. And then, so these pieces become scraps. Bring everybody back over here and down to earth. Okay, so now I've got my 2 pieces of bias. What you're going to do is you're going to sew them so that the points are at opposite ends. So I take my piece, move this one out of the way. I take my piece, I fold it, and I make the short ends meet like that. So it becomes a loop. So bring you over here. I'm just going to sew one of them right now. And the points should not extend past the ends. And you're sewing with that 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay. Do not iron this piece. Whatever you do, do not iron this piece. It is going to deform it. And what you can do is just fold it in half. I'm using my clips. And then sew at a 1/4 inch or 1/8 of an inch, sorry, to keep it together. And then the final step that I'm going to demonstrate tonight is making the base. So you're going to take your lining, you're going to take a piece of soft and stable, and you're going to take your outer piece, and you're going to quilt this. And the easiest thing to do is quilting straight lines. You can use, here's where you'd use a little bit of spray based. I'm going to try to hustle this up, so I'm not going to use spray based right now. I want corner to corner here. Actually, no, I lied. I'm going to half inch. There we go. Oh, what am I doing? I don't know what I'm doing. I'm freehanding quilting lines, which is a very bad call. They're not going to be straight. If you have a walking foot with a guide, you only need to like mark once, and then you can use your guide. And you do not need to quilt into the edges of this piece because this piece is going to get cut. Oh, shoot. Okay. So that larger stitch length here. And we're going to quilt this all together. And you'll see how fast this is. I'm not even going to bother to like trim. When I get to the end, I'm just going to rotate it. Like, it's pretty quick. Two more lines. I hear my family coming downstairs because they're waiting for me to go get groceries with them. We're at 40 minutes, so I'm going to try to finish this quickly. There are templates in the pattern. I've traced mine. And what you're going to do is you're going to cut out. So what they had you do is trace, stitch at 1/8 of an inch, and then cut it out. I didn't end up stitching today, and it worked out okay because I put the bias binding on right away. And I also quilted quite a bit, so everything stayed together. So I'm going to just find the center of this template so I can center it over one of my stitching lines. And yeah, that's got to be the one. And then I'm going to cut out. It is not easy to cut sitting down. I will tell you that. Okay. So, oh, I missed that part. And this is if you don't do this accurately, this is where your base is not going to fit on the bottom of your piece. So I've got my bias here, and what we're going to do is we're going to bind this. I'm going to mark quarters and then attach it to the wrong side and then flip it to the right side. And I'm going to mark quarters on this as well. And that allows me to position it evenly on this piece. One more here and one more here. And I didn't sew. I will sew. I recommend sewing at 1/8 of an inch next time. So I know that this is a quarter and this is a quarter because I measured that the first time. And then we're going to do the same thing here. And you can see why they get you to stitch it, because it's the fabric's sort of coming up a little bit. You can see. So we match here. So raw edges to raw edges. And you can see already, like, this wants to pull to this side. So I'm going to let it. And then there'll be space here for me to stitch. And this is one of those times where I recommend switching to your switch to your 1/4 inch foot. It's going to help everything, which is what I'm going to do right now. And my 1/4 inch foot is over there because everything's over there right now. Okay. Oh, my stitch is too long. There we go. What you can do is you can hold in the center of the circle, and that helps it to sort of just naturally turn. I'm also having to contend with making sure that the bias stays flat. And a thread is hot because of course it is. There we go. So we're coming to the end of this. We're wrapping up. If you've got any quick questions, pop them in the comments. There's one more step here, and if not, leave them as a comment in the video, and I'll answer them in writing. So you've got your piece here like this, and then what we're going to do is we're going to flip this over to this front side. I trimmed my seam allowance on my other one because I found that in spots it was very thick. I also used the iron because heat is my friend. But you can see, so you can see maybe here, like this is popping up, and this is where I would use the stiletto to make sure everything's just poked in nicely. So yeah, this part here is not as nice as I want it to be. That's okay. And I'd keep using that 1/4 inch foot. Let me see if anybody's written any comments while how do I get the chat to come back up? Nope, I hid the chat. No, I want a live chat. There we go. So you shouldn't see that line of stitching from where you attached it on the other side. It's going to just end up covering it. This is see, my bias binding was a little, see, it was a little short here, and so it doesn't want to stay down. So no, I'm going to just go with it. I could rip it out and do it again, but we're just going to go with it. So there's my edge here. Here's the stiletto, poking and making sure everything is down and in. And is feeding into the machine nicely. I am less talkative with this project. It takes more of my concentration. Oh, there's quite a bit poked up here. There we go. If you don't have a purple thing, get a purple thing. And I love that that's what the actual name for them is. It's the purple thing. There's a couple of threads sticking out, and I'm not going to worry about it. I will trim those after the fact. Not these threads. Threads from the the edge of my seam here. And there's a piece I didn't catch. Just go over that quickly. Any other spots I didn't catch? No. And this is why normally I'm all for contrast stitching, but I found with this project there were so many parts where seeing the stitching was really important. So I went with a thread color that was similar to my fabric. This is your base. This could be a coaster. I would we could just call it quits at this. Anyways, that's it. That's the tricky parts on this part so far. The next step, so have all of the components done. So you're going to want to have A, B, C, D, E, F, and G completed. And then next week we're going to go over how to, oh, this stupid thing. And it's like there. There we go. Next week we're going to go over how to assemble the body, how to put the zipper in, and then the final assembly of the case. So I hope that's made things a little bit more clearer for everyone. Like I said, this one is definitely bring your patience for this one. But it's fun, it's cute, and it's totally worth doing. And yeah, we've got lots of supplies. If you're watching and you want to join us, there's lots of supplies. We've got pieces of soft and stable so that you can make your base and your body. And that's it. I hope everyone has a fantastic day and gets out to play in the snow tomorrow. And we will see you next week. Cheers. Oh, why doesn't it end?